In this video, we're going to go through how to set up categories, how to link them together, and then how to actually assign them to individual inventory items. So to get started, we're going to go to Inventory, Management, and then we're going to select Create Categories. And when we select this option, we're going to get a list of 3 sets of categories. And the first step is to actually assign what we want in each of those categories. So as an example, the main category is going to be the first level of category that we see. So if we set up, for example, accessories and apparel, batteries, let's look at apparel. Apparel actually has a second sub-level, maybe for gloves or jackets or boots. So in that case, for the second level, we're going to set up gloves, jackets, and boots. Now, what we'll do is once we set up each of the things that we want in each of the levels, then we'll link them together via the link categories. So let's take a look at apparel and how we can set up jackets and boots and those types of things. So the first thing to note here is that to add a new option, we just come in here and type new category, whatever we want, and hit the plus sign. If we want to edit something, we just come down and select the pencil to bring it up and allow us to edit it. If we want to cancel that edit, we hit the cancel. If you want to delete it, you can hit the trash can. Now you'll notice that apparel does not actually have a trash can, and the reason is because apparel has been assigned to some part somewhere, and therefore you can't remove it any longer. So in order to remove it, you have to go in and remove it from all of the parts that are in the system. So the next step is to set up our second level, which we're going to set up as jackets and gloves. So to do that, we're going to select the subcategory 2 level, and we're going to take a look and see if we already have. We have jackets here. We've got see if we have gloves. We don't have gloves in here, so let's add gloves. And then see if we have boots, so we'll add boot in here as well. All right, so now we have the second level, and let's say that we want to create a third level, and it's going to be something like men, women's, and children. Now in this particular database we have all kinds of stuff in here that needs to be deleted out, but let's just say that we want men's, women, and children, or child. All right, so we have 3 levels of categories, and it's not necessary to go all the way to 3 levels, but you have 3 levels that you can define if you want. And now we need to actually link those together. So now we're going to go to the link categories. We're going to start off with apparel, and the things that we want to have in apparel are pants, jackets, and we added boots and gloves. And to set these up, you hold the control key down on Windows or the command key on Mac and select the different options, and it'll highlight more than just one. You can add them one at a time if you want, but it's a little bit faster doing it this way. So we added boots and gloves, so we're just going to tell it to save those links. So now we have boots, gloves, jackets, and pants added here. And again, the delete button has to do with whether or not that option has actually been used yet. So the next thing we want to do now is we want to set up our third level. So we want to go to our main category of apparel, our second category of, let's just look at jackets, for example, and we want to add men, women, and child. So we're going to select child, men's, and women. And then we're going to save those links. So now what we have done is we've set up apparel with its subcategories, and then we've set up apparel jackets with its categories, and you just repeat this for each of the different levels that you're wanting to set up. So what we're doing at this level is actually assigning what things are available for us to assign to individual items. Once we get these things set up the way we want them, the second step is to actually assign those items to particular parts. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over here to assign categories, and again I'm in Inventory Management, Assign Categories, and we're going to select our ABC supplier and run the query. Now when I run it, we get a list of all of the parts that are currently set up in that particular group. Now, I don't know what all categories and stuff I have assigned to these items, but before I get started, maybe I want to delete them off so that I can start fresh and get them exactly the way I want them. If they're already set up, then it's not going to hurt anything. It'll just skip over the ones that have already got items for them. But in this case, I want to go ahead and let's delete these items off, and I'm going to hit process. And when I do that, Lizzy just went out and cleared all of the categories that were previously assigned to those items. So now what I want to do is actually set up, and we're going to act like all of these are women's jackets. So we're going to come over here and we're going to select apparel, we're going to select jackets, and we're going to select women. And then once we get, and we can add more categories. So, you know, we could also come in here and say that these things are also apparel, jackets, and men. So that whether I select one or the other, it'll always come up with this list. Once I get my categories set the way I want them, and I get the parts that I'm actually wanting to affect, then I'm just going to tell it to process these things. Now, the only other things I want to point out here is you also have the ability to apply a selling department or an accounting category to the items. If you select this radio button, you basically have the ability to set up a department and or a accounting category to the selected items that you have in the system, or that we've selected up here above, and that actually applies a category to the parts based on accounting principles. In other words, is this a battery? Is it a tire? And whatever accounting things were set up over in the contact section, Lizzy will further categorize the item and run whatever accounting was set up for it. So there are two sets of accounts here, one that's only used for accounting purposes, and then the one that's used more for a web store type thing where I want to look at all the parts of a certain type. And again, you can have more than one category for those items. Now, once you get those categories set up, the way that you actually can use them is if I go over here to locate item now, and we tell it that we want to look at all of the apparel items, this will bring up our list. If I further categorize and say I want to look at all of my apparel jackets, then the system will come up with a list of subcategories where we tell it I want to look at all my women jackets or my men's jackets. And then you'll notice if I pick child, it'll go blank again. So I'm basically defining what things should cause this list to populate. Now you also have, if we go down here to reports and we run an inventory list, so we go down here to inventory list, we have the ability to come in here and tell it that I want to run this report off of apparel items and jackets and women, for example, or men, and this will actually go out and populate a report based on all of the items that have been categorized with those particular settings. So it's fairly straightforward. First, set up your categories, link them together, and then assign those categories to individual items, recognizing again that you do have an accounting category, which is basically those primary categories or the first level categories, and then you have the ability to assign multiple categories to the individual items for purposes of tracking and reporting.